Welcome to the Escape the System channel. I'm Joe Barnes, and in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to an interview with Bob Proctor. And I was really impressed with this interview because I think in these 23 minutes, he captured a formula or a way of programming your subconscious mind and programming your mind for success. So I wanted to react to this video to add my own input to it and draw out 5 keys that he makes from this video, 5 things that if you just commit to doing throughout the whole of 2022, we're at the start of the year right now, these 5 things, if you make sure you do them every single day or every single week and keep that up consistently throughout the whole year, I really feel that they'd have the potential to transform your life in quite a significant way by the end of the year. So without further ado, let's dive into this video and I hope you enjoy. Before we get started, I just wanted to say, think of this as a workshop. Take the next 35, 40 minutes, whatever it takes, and sit down with a pen and paper or your phone so you can make notes, so you can start to action some of the things that both Bob Proctor is suggesting and some of the suggestions that I'm making to enhance his points. So with that in mind, let's get going.
You attended seminars, and you said your reason there was to learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
My experience has been people attend seminars, especially self-development seminars, to look for the answer. They want to know, what is it out there I can learn so that I can be more successful? That wasn't your motivation?
No, oddly enough, and I think probably you're right. I think that's what most people are looking for. I think they're looking for an answer outside of themselves, and they're never going to find it. I think by this time I realized it was something in me. I met a man here in Toronto. He was one that originally got me involved in studying this, Ray Stanford. And he told me if I didn't like the results I was getting in my life, that I was going to have to change me because they were my results. And he said, if you're going to change you, you're going to have to find out something about yourself. And that seemed to make sense. I don't think it was an earth-shattering idea. It wouldn't give anybody a brain hernia, but it made a hell of a lot of sense to me. So I started to study myself. I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
What do you mean? I mean, I know my name, I know my age, I know where I live.
Yeah, that's not you, though. You know, that's just it. If you ask the average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, I'm Bob Proctor, but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are 2 words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, well, this is me, but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like, you never phone down here to the studio and say, body won't be in today. It's sick.
Okay.
You know, we don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? Well, that's an interesting question. And I believe if a person will start to study that and look for the answer, they'll find it. See, I think we live simultaneously on 3 planes of understanding. We're spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies.
Okay.
But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all.
Okay.
So this is another great point. 95% of people are reacting to life, and there's a really simple test you can do to see whether you are a reactor or a creator, and that's simply to monitor your thoughts for a day. 1 day is all it takes, and just notice how much you are reacting to the things that happen in your day and how much you are creating the things that are happening in your day. When I see creating, what I mean by that is actively thinking about what you want, or actively thinking about how you want things to go. Or are you simply on autopilot, reacting to a request your boss makes, or an argument you have with your wife or husband, or boyfriend and girlfriend, or reacting to something, missing the train, or some unfortunate thing that has occurred, or maybe not even reacting to unfortunate things, just simply drifting on autopilot. So make a note of that one day. Pick any day, random day, and just for that day, try to monitor how much you are creating your life and how much you're reacting. And this will really tell you a lot about yourself and a lot about the direction your life is going. And if you are unhappy or not fulfilled with where you are at this present point in your life, then this will probably explain a lot. And the more you shift to being a creator instead of a reactor, the happier and more successful you will become.
And would you call that one of the barriers to success?
Oh, there's no question about it. I think there's 2 barriers. Success is a funny word. Nightingale had a great definition for it. He said a person's successful if they know where they are, and they know where they're going, and they're progressively moving in that direction. He said that success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone that has a goal, and they're moving towards it, they're successful. Most people think that you're successful if you have a lot of money. Quite often you have a lot of money if you're successful, but it isn't. I wouldn't say Mother Teresa has a lot of money.
Okay.
You know?
And this is a really good point. I think it emphasizes the fact that as a society, we have a really warped view of success. Have you noticed how, people who work in financial institutions can be paid multi-millions, maybe billions, and you might say that what they're doing is contributing towards damaging the world, and yet a charity worker may only make $30,000 a year. I don't know exactly, but they're not exactly making tons of money. So society's view of success, which is primarily based on how much money you earn or how much status you acquire, is not a good way to judge your own level of success. I think Bob gave a good definition there. It's, are you heading in the direction of being who you want to be and doing something you want to do? That is a far more balanced way of assessing your own success.
But she's a pretty successful lady. So it's...
Okay, so that barrier to success...
Well, there's a couple of them.
Okay.
I think there's two barriers. One is our conditioning. The conditioning that takes place in our subconscious mind from the time we're infants. All we can do is act and talk like the people around us. That's why we learn the language we learned. If there was 10 languages spoken in our home, we'd learn 10 languages without any trouble. There's usually one, and that's the only one we ever learn. And we grow older and we think, I couldn't learn another language. We could learn 100 if we wanted to. You can do anything. But I think we're conditioned. We have a real strong conditioning, usually with not some very good ideas. And then that's the barrier that's inside us. The one that's outside of us is our environment. We have a tendency to act like everybody around us. And if you think about this, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because if you study statistics, 95% of the people live their entire life and never live the way they want to live. You know that 95% of the population in this country, let's say in North America,
okay,
the richest continent in the history of the world, they'll work productively, let's say for 40 of their 65 years,
okay,
and they'll end up with hardly any money. Well, there's got to be something wrong.
So there's not much...
5% of the people end up financially comfortable or independent.
Are you trying to depress us, Bob? Because that's...
No, actually, I think it's quite an exciting idea, because you see, the idea behind it is that anybody can win, anyone at all. But if we start studying these statistics, I think we'll arrive at the conclusion, geez, I better start thinking for myself rather than follow everybody. Most people, they get a job, they look around, they see how everybody else is doing their work, and they start doing it the same way. Mm-hmm. They should stop and think, I wonder if any of these people know what they're doing. Is there a better way to do it?
But don't we have a need to fit in? I mean, we don't want to stand out. We don't want to get fired. We don't want to make waves.
Exactly. Just fall into line. Take a number. Be like everybody around. That'd be great in the animal kingdom. But human beings aren't supposed to live that way. I think we should make a few waves. We should maybe stand out, be different. Not for the sake of being different,
okay,
but because we are different. We all think different thoughts. And I believe we...
It's so refreshing to hear somebody say this, that we are different, and don't seek to be different. That's the thing. When you're forming your own identity, some people try to be different to gain attention, and it's not really about that, and it shouldn't be about that. You should be different because you're just being true to yourself. And this is probably one of the greatest battles you'll face throughout your life, is this temptation to always deny who you are, to suppress your truest thoughts and feelings and what you really want to go for in life because it clashes with what society tells you should be doing.
We should start to think and build images in our mind of what we'd like to do and then set out and do it.
Okay.
Emerson did that, Edison did that, Marconi did that, Samuel Morse did that, Buckminster Fuller did that. We could go on and on and on. Okay. They were different. They stood out. They made a few waves.
Okay, you started with you saying you started with a search for yourself to try to find out more about yourself, and you were somewhat successful along the way.
Well, I didn't start it like that in the beginning. I started out, I wanted to earn a lot of money. I figured if I had enough money, I was going to cure all my problems. I found that that wasn't true. I earned a fair amount of problems or money, and I seem to have more problems. But after working at this for a few years, I decided that the real answer is get to know yourself a little better.
Okay.
And I don't think you have to go off in the Himalayas and become a guru to.
Okay. What did you do to learn about yourself? You said you went around as many seminars.
I attended seminars. Okay. I went and listened to different speakers who taught something about the mind. I think the answer's in our mind if we'll start studying and trying to understand our mind.
Okay. Let me get back to you if I can. What did you learn about Bob Proctor during that study?
Well, I learned that the biggest part of me you'll never see. It's non-physical. And what you see here in the physical body is nothing but the physical manifestation of the higher side of my personality. And of course that's true with you, and Nancy's on the camera. It's true of everyone. And what we have to study, I think, is how does this non-physical part of my mind work? What happens when I think? Where do thoughts come from? How was this chair built? Somebody had to think. Thoughts are everywhere. And we pull thoughts into our mind and we build pictures or images in our mind.
Okay.
What we want to understand is that's a non-physical side of ourself that's doing that. If I can build an image of something in my mind, I'm quite capable of building a physical replica of it in my world. So if I build an image of me as a happy, relaxed person, I can live like that. If I build an image of myself as being prosperous, I can become prosperous.
So if we think rich, we will be rich.
Absolutely. We're already rich, just short of money.
Okay, those.
So this is a really exciting idea, and I think when I first got involved in the world of personal development and self-help, I was really excited about this idea that our thoughts are actually creative, and that's what he's talking about. And I want you to get excited about this idea right now. I know there's a huge barrier in our societies and the system we live because we're so focused on the material and appearances that we start to believe that what the world outside of us, what we can see, all these buildings, all these cars, this laptop in front of us, these other people, that really is the only reality. That is really the only realm where life gets played out. That's the only place where it matters. And what Bob Proctor is saying, and he's not alone in saying it, many other people have said it throughout the years as well, is that that's only one realm. The other realm, possibly the most important realm, is what's going on in our minds, in our spirits, and in our souls. And if you can learn to detach from the physical world somewhat to a degree, or start to realize that the inner world is the action and the physical world is the reaction, it's a perspective shift that can really change your life in quite a dramatic way. But it's a hard step to make because we're constantly battling this message from the society around us that the physical, the material is what's all important.
Those of us that like to acquire more money and or happiness or whatever we see success, those of us that want to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves, we do it first by...
Well, the first thing you do is sit down and decide what you want. If it's money you want, how much money?
Lots of money.
Well, nobody knows how much lots is. Okay. So you've got to be specific.
I enjoyed that part. You see, he corrected him, and that's something I hear all the time with a lot of people. Some clients I've helped, and also just with friends, talking about New Year's resolutions or goals for the year. I want to be fitter, they might say. I want to lose weight. You've got to have an actual number associated with that. It can't simply be an idea that you want to do something. Your subconscious mind works best over very clear details, clear numbered details. And once you start to do that, it's a lot more effective in using your subconscious to help you provide you with the answers and insights that are going to help you achieve the goal.
Specific. Okay. You write down on a card exactly what you want. And you carry that card around and read it often. Now, this is what I learned in this book, Think and Grow Rich, and it's what I teach.
So this is another great point here. So here's my card. I don't know how well you can see that. And it's simply the back of one of my tennis coaching cards. And obviously times have changed. A lot of people write things down on their phones. I'm a little old school, so I still like to write things out. But whatever you want to do, it really doesn't matter. My card is 1 million book sales. These are all the things I want to achieve. 1.5 million pounds in order to buy a dream home. 2 children. 1 Tesla car. 80 kilograms of weight. So it's very short, very simple, but this is very clear and definitive. And he is saying, look at this every single day. It's a way of programming your subconscious mind with clear instructions about what you want to achieve.
Teach in the seminars. I'll teach people how to set goals. But you decide exactly what you want. And then you start to think. Now you're going to have thoughts come to your mind of why you can't get it. Mm-hmm. You have the ability in your conscious mind to reject that idea, kick it out of your mind. Thinking of why you can't do something is never going to do you any good. And keep thinking until you start to think of thoughts of how you can do it. And the way will be shown to you. It comes in the form of images in our mind. Think of how you can and not why you can't.
Okay. So our first step is to set
That's the
some
first
goals.
step.
And think about how we can go about reaching those goals.
Exactly. And just think of how you can. Now, I would say before you get into that, you should get a good book and start to study it. Select a person who is already doing something that you'd like to do. Get to know that person. Mm-hmm. Go to the experts for advice. Don't ask the person next door, your mother, father, brother, or the guy that works beside you, because they don't necessarily know. There's no point in asking a person how to earn a lot of money if they're only earning $10,000 a year. They don't know. If they knew, they'd probably be earning a lot. It's like, don't go to a sick doctor if you want to get healthy.
Okay.
So you find some...
Okay, so this is another good point. So he's basically the 5-point summary, which I'm going to give you at the end of this video. He's outlined one thing, which is writing down on a card what it is that you want to achieve. Second thing he's talking about now is getting yourself a good mentor. And if you can't get a good mentor, then find a great book. But ideally a mentor, someone who has done the thing you want to do, and then attempting to learn from them. So we've had 2 really good, concrete, actionable steps that you can take.
Someone that you can go to for advice. Get a real good book and lock into that book and start to study it. Like, I've had this one that looks like a Bible, you know. But this is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I've been reading this thing now for 23 years. I'll probably read it for another 23 years. I get another good book that I brought over here today. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Now, I'm not getting a commission for selling this. The author's dead now. He's been gone for a couple of years. But Dr. Joseph Murphy wrote this book, The Power of Your Subconscious.
When he mentioned that, it kind of sent shivers down my spine, because The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, if anyone has watched any of my videos before or read any of my books, that was the book that really transformed my life and set me on a different path. And it's reassuring and affirmative to hear him saying that, to hear these many different people saying that. I remember listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast with Anthony Robbins, and Ferriss said to him, what's one book, if you could only give one book to someone to that would help them, the best insights that they could possibly have, and they only had that one book. And Anthony Robbins responded, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, another book which I absolutely love and think is so powerful. And the more people, like Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, the more people who are saying that, there is something in these books, there is something real in this idea that our thoughts determine our lives.
Conscious mind. And that's probably one of the best books that you're ever going to find, because you're going to learn something about your mind when you read this book. Okay. Now, I read a lot of books. I've got probably 1,000 books sitting in my den at home in my library. But the one that I carry it everywhere I go, and I read it all the time, is Think and Grow Rich. I never stop reading it.
Where's the value for you to reread that and read it again? I mean, you must know it well enough that...
I think I could probably recite it verbatim. But the secret is, I once read in a book where it said, when you read a good book through the second time, you don't see something in it that you didn't see before. You see something in yourself that wasn't there before. You see, when I read this, I create a greater awareness. Let me just read you one line out of here, or 2 lines.
Okay.
Hill said, the missing link in all systems of education known to civilization today may be found in the failure of educational institutions to teach students how to organize and use knowledge after they acquire it. He went on to say that we should understand the real meaning of the word educate. It's not going to a brick-and-mortar edifice for 25 years. That's gathering information. You'll probably develop your memory, but I would question how well you develop your mind. And I'm not against education because I encourage my children to go to school, as we know it. Now, he said the word education comes from the word educo. And he says it's derived from the Latin word educo, meaning to induce, to draw out, or to develop from within. An educated person is not necessarily one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is one who has so developed the faculties of their mind that they may acquire anything they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. An educated person is the one that knows how to go and get what they want out of life without being selfish.
In sense, a researcher, somebody who knows what they're looking for and knows how to go about finding.
Well, I think we should forever be involved in research because learning is a lifelong process. You never stop learning. Education means to draw out from within. We're drawing on an infinite source. We've got deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. We can learn to do anything. We have phenomenal powers. If we used our body like we used our mind, we'd probably just move our little finger.
Okay. We don't exercise our mind enough.
No. But we're not taught to. Kids in school should be taught, before the school year ever starts, to sit down. They should be given a blank report card and get them to visualize the marks they want to get and write their own report card. This is before school starts. First week in school. And then the teacher should say, now, I want you just to concentrate on how to get that mark, and I don't want you to think of why you can't. And I want you to form the attitude that you're going to get it. Now, some people say that's not being realistic. That's being very realistic. That's following the success principles that go back 6,000 years in recorded history. That's how everything was accomplished.
That's not engaging in fantasy thinking, in wishful thinking, in daydreaming we talk about.
No. Well, that's where all greatness comes from. Greatness comes from fantasy.
I love that line. Greatness comes from fantasy. I think James Allen wrote in his book, As a Man Thinketh, dreams are the seedlings of realities. In the acorn a mighty oak sleeps, or something, words to that effect. And dreamers and fantasists are often being criticized or ridiculed in our society. But really what Bob Proctor is saying is it is the dreamers and the fantasists who, if they persist with their dreams and fantasies and take action on them, are the shapers of our world.
I would imagine that when Edison first saw the light bulb, he was fantasizing. But he kept fantasizing, and he built it into a theory, and then he built it into an image, and then he built it into a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, it was a fantasy to think of going to the moon. Mm-hmm. We've been up there with cars, playing golf.
Okay, you mentioned in terms of success principles, attitude, this business of attitude.
Attitude. It takes in the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. I'd have a difficult time really explaining attitude right just in a conversation. I use a board in the seminar, and I did an attitude seminar last night. We spent 3 hours dealing with that one subject, so to do it here in 3 minutes, I can't do it. I haven't learned how yet.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
I recognize it's difficult because we talk...
You have to have a winning attitude, though, Tom.
Okay. In human relations, we talk about the toughest thing with managing people. The toughest thing to deal with is their attitude.
That's right.
That's almost impossible.
And it's the one thing when management falls down.
But we can't change people's attitudes.
Well, nobody can change another person's attitude. The only attitude we can change is our own. But you see, if management have the idea it's their attitude and we can't do anything about it, then they're not going to do anything about it. But if management arrive at the conclusion, yes, it is attitude, and let's teach the people something about attitude. Let's teach them something about themselves. Let's make them realize that they're worth something, that they're valuable, that the greatest resource we've got. Companies spend about 65% of every dollar that comes in goes back out on employees and wages and benefits, and yet management knows less about employees than anything else. They know more about the gadgets and the widgets than they do about the people.
Okay, so your suggestion is we develop a winning attitude.
Absolutely.
Can you define that for me, first of all? What is a winning attitude?
Well, if we can understand, let me digress for a second. The whole universe operates by laws, and there's a law of opposites. It's called the law of polarity. Everything has its opposite. There's a right and a left side. Mm-hmm. There's a front and a back, an up and a down, a hot and a cold, positive and negative, yin the yang. Well, you can think negative or you can think positive, but you can't think both at the same time. time. You're only going to think one way at one time. And we have to train our mind to think or look for the positive or the good in things. There's good in everything. There's no such thing as no good.
Car broke down on the way over to the station.
There's something good about it. There's something good about it. Now, you may have to look to find out what it is.
Okay.
I think this is a really powerful point, and there's a question you should ask yourself when something bad has happened to you, even possibly the most serious of misfortunes has occurred. Just ask yourself, what have I learned from this experience that can benefit me now? What have I learned from something that has happened in the past that can benefit me now? I can't count the amount of times where I thought something was a bad experience or a bad outcome or a bad result, which actually contained within it a lesson which led me to something greater or that brought something better into my life. And likewise, the amount of times when I've celebrated a success and thought I was on top of the world, only to discover it didn't turn out to be what I thought it was. So in a way, it's sometimes very human to react to events and be happy or sad, but in a way you should almost be detached with everything, because as Bob points out, even the bad things can lead to something good, and sometimes the triumphs aren't what you imagine them to be.
Yeah. But there's something good in everything. There has to be a positive and a negative for anything to exist. There's a law of gender that decrees that. Science understands it. It's taught in science. Well, once we understand that there's this law of opposites, there's negative thoughts or positive thoughts. As the thought energy flows into our mind, we decide what we're going to think. A person's out of work. They can decide to think, I can't find a job, but they can decide to think, I can. If they're thinking, I'm going to find one, then they'll start attracting a train of thought to them, figuring out how to find it. You really have to understand how your conscious and your subconscious mind works in relation to your body or your physical world to understand attitude. Attitude should be taught as a subject in school ahead of reading, writing, arithmetic, or anything else, because it's a person's attitude that's going to determine the marks they get.
Okay, and maybe part of attitude or related to attitude is this business of self-image, which you talked about.
Yeah, well, that would, like we were talking about success principles, and I was saying you got to get the winning attitude, you've got to set a goal. Then you have to work on self-image. Now, when we think, we build images in our mind. Dr. Maxwell Maltz discovered the self-image concept as we know it today. In 1960, he was a plastic surgeon. And he realized he was operating on people. He may remove a nasty scar from their face. And he noticed sometimes when he removed the scar or maybe did a nose job on them or something, there was a great psychological change took place in the person. Where they may have been introverted, they started to become very gregarious and outgoing. And he postulated that there must be two images that we have, an exterior image, and we also have an inner self-image. Mm-hmm. And he started to study this, and he wrote a magnificent book on it called Psycho-Cybernetics. Mm-hmm. And psycho-cybernetics, psycho being the mind, cybernetics being the science of control and communication. And he goes into this, and he explains how every one of us has an image in our mind of ourself, and it's called a self-image. Too many people don't know much about themselves, and so they don't have a very good image of themselves. And you'll often notice that people will shy away from you. They won't look you in the eye. They'll look down or look up. They'll never try to do anything of any great consequence because they don't think they can. They have a poor self-image.
Okay. Part of that is because through school we're told about what we don't do well. We failed here, we had low grades, or
that
we
could
only
be part
got
of it.
60%
Yeah.
or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's been a great disservice done with the IQ test in that respect when you're bringing out school. Benet, the Frenchman back around the turn of the century, invented the IQ test, and then we brought it over from Stanford over here, and we'll test a person's intellect, and then we'll brand them good, bad, smart, not, and that's not true. We can change IQs by changing self-images. Mm-hmm. But yes, if we're told we're not very good, you're just like your dad, you're a bum, you're never going to do well, you didn't go to school, you can't win. Okay. Well, that's all true. That's all false. We can do anything. And we should be encouraging a child. Give them a pat on the back rather than a kick.
Okay, what can we do? Members of our viewing audience right now, most of us walk around with some degree of a self-image. Is that fair to say?
We all have a self-image.
Okay, would you say most of us have a negative self-image to some degree?
Well, Let's say we can all improve our self-image.
Okay.
I don't care how good your image is, you can improve it.
Okay, how can we improve it? Something specific. How can we go about making our self-image more positive?
Well, again, you know, you're getting into a whole day seminar. If I could give you just a simple tip on it, if a person would sit down and let their body relax, totally relax,
Okay.
and then start to visualize in their mind, see themselves the way they want to see themselves.
Which may take a good deal of thought. Since we're not
Well, you
sure
relax, yeah.
I mean, in terms of how we want to see ourselves. Maybe we don't know how we want to
Relate it to something specific.
somebody we admire, maybe, or
Possibly.
somewhere we like to see ourselves down the road. Okay.
Yeah, see how you'd like to live your life. See yourself living it that way.
Okay, so here Bob has given us the third step in our 5-part process. He is saying relax and see yourself as you want to be. This is to improve your self-image, or see yourself living the life you want to live. Now, seems easy enough. He's talking sort of about visualization, meditation, but there's a very key word he uses here that some people don't appreciate when they try to do this for themselves, and that is the word relax. Take some time to sit down, lie down, maybe go in a bath, whatever it is that just starts to slow you down and relax you, and then start to think about what it is you want to do with your life or who you want to become. And he doesn't set a time limit on this. You could really, you could do 5 minutes each day. You could do half an hour every few days, whatever you feel is right for you. But taking the time out to get yourself relaxed and then to program your subconscious mind is incredibly powerful.
Okay.
Now, understand that that's a picture in your mind. When you pick up a book, the book is nothing but a picture that an author has painted in words. Van Gogh, the great artist, was asked one time how he did such beautiful work. He said, I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream. They get the picture in the mind, and then paint it on the wall or on the canvas. Well, if we would relax and build the image in our mind of how we'd like to see ourselves, how we'd like to see ourselves acting in life, relating to other people, our social life, see ourselves in the position we hold, or how we make our sales presentations if we happen to be in selling or something, and then take that picture and describe it, write it out in the present tense. I am so happy now that I see myself, and write it out. Now, a lot of people will laugh at this and say, that doesn't make any sense. It makes a lot of sense. They can't tell you why it doesn't. I could spend hours telling you why it does, and I could explain it in such detail that everyone would understand it. But write out a description of how you'd like to see yourself. Start to read it, and read it, and read it, and read it every day. Carry it around and keep reading it.
So here we have the fourth part of the process. Write a description of how you would like to see yourself or how you'd like your life to be, and then read it every single day. And when he says a description, it doesn't have to be anything too detailed. A paragraph or two will do. It doesn't necessarily have to be an essay. And as he says, write it in the present tense, as if that is your life right now. Joe Dispenza talks about this idea a lot as well, as living in the state of your realized desire, feeling that you are that person and that life is yours already, and that jumps you. Joe Dispenza talks about breaking the habit of being yourself, or something along those lines, and it's such a good phrase and idea, because every day we wake up and our environment reinforces the person that we are right now and the life that we live right now. So by doing something like writing down how you want your life to be, you're jumping into that life now, and that brings that in a way, it makes you a different person, or you're a person with a different kind of energy, and the kind of energy needed to rise above your present environment and live that life.
The one point that all the great teachers, all down through history, have all agreed on, they've been in complete unanimous agreement on it, we become what we think about. Now, it may be fantasy at first, it might even appear to us as being a lie. But if you read it often enough, you'll start to believe it. And when William James said, believe and your belief will create the fact, you will see the person's personality change. I watch people in the seminars, personality change right in front of my eyes. And all they're doing is starting to see themselves different. They're starting to think different thoughts.
So our thoughts control our actions.
Oh, there's no question about it. No, our thoughts control our feelings.
Okay.
Our feelings control our actions.
All right. And we control our thoughts.
Absolutely.
Or we can control our thoughts.
Control our thoughts, yes.
Generally, though, one of our difficulties, one of our problems maybe is that we tend to react to what other people tell us, and we consequently get the negative thoughts, and then that affects our feelings, and then that affects our behavior.
That's right. That's exactly the way it is. We read the newspaper. Doom and gloom's coming. Mm-hmm. We just accept it. Doom and gloom doesn't have to be coming. Do you know there's always been a depression for some people? I grew up with the idea that everybody went broke in the 30s. They didn't. Some made millions. I thought everybody went out of business. They didn't. Some people went into business. There's always a depression for some people, and there's always good times for others. Let's ask ourselves when we read something in the paper, do I want to get emotionally involved in that idea? If it's a negative idea, I don't want to get emotionally involved with it. I don't read the paper that often. I do, but I don't dwell on it.
You don't get emotionally involved in it
No.
when you see other
When an idea comes into your mind, whether somebody else tells you or whether you read it in the paper, we should reason with it. Ask ourselves, will that idea help me get to where I want to go? If it won't, reject the idea.
Okay. All right. Bob, I appreciate it.
This is sort of his fifth and final point in the 5-point process is tune out from newspapers, or more appropriately now for our time, tune out from the mainstream media. Don't engage with it. It's just going to put fear into your mind. It's going to make you believe in negative things. Have a complete withdrawal from all media sources. Don't buy newspapers. Don't watch the news on TV. Avoid MSN on the internet or any other kind of news outlets. Your life will not suffer from it. In fact, you'll be bypassing and avoiding a whole heap of negativity. There's also a good point Bob made there about choosing your beliefs. Sometimes we think that we believe the things we do about ourselves and life because it's the truth. We have no other option. Well, Bob Proctor is telling you, you don't have to accept these negative ideas. Don't choose your beliefs based on what you think the truth is, which is a really hard concept to define. There's always a different perspective on what the truth actually is. So don't choose your beliefs based on the truth. Choose them based on what is going to help you. Is this negative belief or idea I'm reading in the press or the media actually going to help my life? If the answer is no, reject it. Is this negative belief or idea that a friend is telling me, or that my parents are telling me, or that a colleague is telling me, is it going to help and benefit my life? If the answer is no, reject it. Only believe in the things that are going to help you. And you will be amazed at how much negativity and fear you can cut out of your life.
Our half hour's gone by already.
Went fast.
Very quickly. Those that are interested in learning more about your philosophy of success, and I know you do.
This is pretty much the end of what I feel is an exceptional speech from Bob Proctor. We'll now cover the 5 steps, which if you follow for 2022, I really think will dramatically change your life. If you've made it this far, I just want to say a big thank you. I do appreciate that this is a long video. I hope you've treated it in a way as a workshop, giving yourself 45 minutes, 50 minutes to sit down, really learn something that hopefully is going to transform your life. Before I leave you, I just want to give you a quick summary of the 5 main points we covered in that video. Number 1 is write down on a card or on your phone clear goals that you want to achieve using a fixed number. You must have a number, an amount that you want to acquire or attain. Number 2, find a mentor. It doesn't just have to be one mentor. It could be many different mentors for different aspects of your life or business that you are working on. Sometimes it can be difficult to find a mentor or a coach. They want incredible amounts of money, maybe unfair amounts of money. My advice is do be prepared to pay for a mentor, but choose someone you like, and don't believe that just because somebody is asking for the most amount of money, that therefore makes them the best. It really isn't that way. You should be able to find a mentor at a price that isn't prohibitive. Number 3 on our list is to relax and imagine yourself being the person you want to be and living the life you want to live. Whether you do this daily or a couple of times a week is absolutely fine. There's no required minimum. But do get yourself in that relaxed state and be creative with your imagination. Imagine all kinds of scenarios where you get to be the person you want to be and do the things you want to do. Number 4 on the list is write a statement down where you are the person you want to be and you're doing things you want to do in the present tense, and read it daily. Number 5, the last on our list, disengage from the mainstream media completely, maybe disengage largely from social media as well. You don't need these negative beliefs, this fear and panic constantly being pumped into your consciousness. So with those 5 points, I now hope you're prepared to transform your life in 2022 and beyond, I guess. So thanks again for watching. If you have liked this video, please do consider liking it. And if you want more, then consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be back in the not too distant future with more videos. So do stay tuned, and thank you for watching.